Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GameClock, your new favorite sports show. I'm your host, Michael Pales, and after just a short 2-week hiatus, we are back in action here on GameClock. Today, we're going to be breaking down Week 13, which is including the Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and the Sunday and Monday night games. We're also going to be talking about next week and looking ahead as matchups in the season kind of starts to fall into place in what is normal. And we're also going to talk about during halftime special teams and kicking, because for some reason I feel like I've seen more missed kicks than normal. Is that actually the truth? Well, I'll get to that during halftime. But let's get started with quarter one. So let's get it over here. Start the browser, start the clock as we begin here talking about week 13. As it's not starting, never mind. Oh. Sorry, my computer is running slowly, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Okay, as the clock starts, let's talk about Week 13. And the first game was the Packers versus the Lions. Now, this was the first game on Thanksgiving. A lot of people have traditions of watching football on Thanksgiving, and I am also one such person. This game clearly was a game where the Lions won the lack of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown going down in the first quarter was definitely not helpful for their success. They lost by a touchdown, but what truly felt off was that their offense couldn't seem to get going in the way that you want. But it also is a thing that lends itself to the fact that the Packers are such a good team defensively. They were playing exceptionally well, and they needed a bounce back like this after the slide they had kind of been going on. They'd been in some tough games, close games that they ended up losing, but now they face a conference opponent and they end up sweeping the Lions, which is a huge deal when it comes to conference implications and how the divisions are going to shake out. So by that metric, I think it was a very good win for the Packers. The Lions, though, continued to look off, and it worries me as they now had that previous game playing in the elements. They struggled, and then now even in their dome they struggled, and so that worries me. Also, shout out to the halftime show. That was one of the better halftime shows that we get to see. It was Seven Nations Army and Eminem. It was a great one. It was a really good one. If you haven't had the chance to check that out, go. I think it's on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. The next game, the second window for Thanksgiving, was Chiefs versus the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are looking like a team that could make a push at the end of this season. Most people had written them off. They were 5-4-1. They were at a spot where you're like, they're not going to come back. And now they're sitting in a much better spot with their future in their hands. They have a shot at getting that 7th seed or that 6th seed wild card spot. And by that metric, it's great to see. They win against a tough opponent in the Kansas City Chiefs who seem to be able to win clutch games, but not this season. I'm pretty sure that this season they're 0-5 or 0-6 in one-score games, similar to the Arizona Cardinals. They just can't win the close game. But regardless, what I'm also seeing is George Pickens is like that. I think that George Pickens is truly having one of these just explosions onto the scene that one shows that the Steelers clearly did not use him how he could have been used, and second off, you also have the fact that he possibly could dethrone CeeDee Lamb as the number one wide receiver. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is still very, very good, but with his drop troubles and with other issues, George Pickens is looking like the guy that might be the one that should be wearing 88 for the Dallas Cowboys. When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, there's a lot of questions right now. There's a possibility that Chiefs don't make the playoffs, and they just have been to 3 Super Bowls back to back to back. You're questioning. You're like, is this still the team? And what I'll personally say is, I don't count the Chiefs out. I think a lot of people are saying, are the Chiefs done? Are they out? The Chiefs are never out, and if they can sneak their way into the playoffs, you never know what Mahomes and company can pull off in the playoffs. And so that's what kind of makes me not worried if I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan, is I just look at it and I'm like, you know what? We're going to be fine. We're not in a spot where we should worry. We're going to be all right. We have Patrick Mahomes. And that's a franchise quarterback does things for you, which leads me to the next game. The Bengals in Baltimore handled business. Joe Burrow coming back and showing why and who he is. Why he is the franchise quarterback, why they paid him so much money, and why he arguably should have won MVP last season. He played exceptionally. This team looks different with Burrow at the helm. Their defense played well. Their defense stifled Lamar Jackson. This is a team that has been getting slugged. This is a team that gave up 40 points to a Carson Wentz-led Vikings team. And now they go into Baltimore away and take on the Ravens and win? That's insane, and it's crazy to look at the fact I'm pretty sure they're already eliminated. But if they make a late run or a late push, there's a possibility they might slide in. I don't know for certain, because right now the AFC North is open. There is a possibility that if they play immaculately and we see a slide from the Steelers like we've been seeing, and we see a slide from the Ravens after a poor game against the Cincinnati Bengals, we could see a wild AFC North conclusion to this season. From a Ravens perspective, their defense was really struggling against Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati-led offense. This is the offense that everyone's like, oh, if we score more points than the other team, we're going to win. Well, no duh. But this is a team that's like, we will be okay if our defense doesn't play well as long as our offense plays well. And this is an example of that. Their defense also played well, is what I will say. I think that Joe Burrow provides a presence and an energy that you don't have with other quarterbacks, with backups. I think that's the thing, is that people don't realize what it's like to have your starting quarterback in versus your backup. Teams look different when their starter is in versus their backup, and especially in the NFL when there is such a significant gap sometimes between your franchise quarterback and your backup, it's even more so the case. And I think that we saw the Bengals defense come alive against the Baltimore Ravens. The Bears handled business against the Eagles in Philly. There was a joke how the Bears and Eagles had an alliance coming into this game because both of them had knocked off their divisional opponents. So the Eagles have beaten the other NFC North teams, and the Bears have beaten the other NFC East teams. The Bears handled business, and the Bears are looking like one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They are a contender. I do not believe they are fraudulent. They are not a team. They're winning close games, but this is very Mahomes and Chiefs-esque when they had is that team really that good? But also, they have Ben Johnson at the helm. And let me tell you, if you're a Lions fan coming from that previous game, you're going to be like, man, I wish we still had Ben Johnson. And the Bears are like, we have Ben Johnson. It's very interesting seeing the dichotomy between what an offensive coordinator / head coach can do to an organization. This Bears team looks revitalized. Caleb Williams is playing at a good level. The defense is holding teams to very low points. And I think that these close games that are coming down to one-score games, the Bears are winning, which has never happened. And that's really exciting for Bears and the Bears fandom. And the NFC North picture continues to become more and more crazy. That leads me to the Eagles. Chuck Pachulo is not a good offensive coordinator. He is currently hurting the Eagles. The Eagles cannot get their offense going. They keep having these low-scoring games. They play the Green Bay Packers and score 10 points. They play the Bears, who are not obviously, they are a competent defense. They are probably top 15, if not top 10 defense. I don't know the statistics. But the Eagles have struggled against teams that are not good by most metrics. Obviously, the Bears are a different conversation, but the Eagles are not looking good, and it's worrisome if I'm an Eagles fan, because obviously they're like, oh, well, we're going to win the NFC East, but the Cowboys are breathing on their necks right now, just being like, we're ready to take action. And if they're not careful, they could lose the division to the Cowboys. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen, but there's still a chance, and that is a worrying factor if I'm an Eagles fan. Saints-Dolphins. Now, Tyler Shaw is a good quarterback. He has been playing at a high level, and I think right now the defense has been what's struggling. Also, I'll get to the Dolphins. The Saints came into this game, played some good football. Chris Olave continues to look like a good wide receiver. Not necessarily a great one, but a good wide receiver. And this team is finding ways to score touchdowns and do some good stuff. But what I'll say is that this Dolphins team is having a turnaround of a turnaround. They went from a team that everyone was like, this team is going to suck, and we know they're going to suck. And right now, Mike McDaniel says, if you're going to fire me, I'm going to make your pick bad. That's what's happening right now, is that by nature of Mike McDaniel's coaching well, the Dolphins playing well, what it is doing is it's screwing over the Dolphins' future if they choose to fire Mike McDaniels. They're making it to where they're going to have a mid-level pick that's not good enough after they've just sold a lot of assets. And I think that that's going to be a really interesting thing to see come the offseason if they continue to win games like that. They're stringing wins, and this is very impactful for the Miami Dolphins. Texans-Colts. Close game, divisional game, and the Texans come out on top. After CJ Stroud coming back from injury, since he had been essentially sat down for a bit by backup Davis Mills, he comes in and he wins against a tough opponent. One of the best teams in the NFL right now. And that is the timer. We're going to be getting into quarter two. I realize I have this here. We're trying a bit of a new setup, guys, so that's why this is a little bit different. And there we go. Second quarter starts. Oop. And there we go. We're back. We're back. Oh, I have way more football to talk about. Holy crap, I got to speed it up. Okay, Texans-Colts. Texans-Colts. Texans came out looking very good. They were able to string some drives together. They played quite well, and they were able to stifle Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor did not play very well, and their defense, this defense of the Texans has been playing very, very well. Will Anderson has been playing at a high level. He has been playing like a third-round draft pick, a rookie of the year. He continues to play at a high level, and that's what you love to see if you're a Texans fan. You also beat the Colts, who are currently one of the top teams in the AFC. They're not the top team. We'll talk about the top team a little later, but what we continue to see is the Colts, it's when they play good teams, it's good, but this is divisional round, and I would not put the Texans up there as like one of the top teams. So it's a little worrying the way that this game concluded. What I will say is I'm not too worried. The Colts will probably bounce back, but from a Texans perspective, this is what you want to see. CJ Stroud coming back and playing well, because obviously we saw some success when you had Davis Mills in there. It will be much better when you put in CJ Stroud and you're like, okay, our starter can play games, because the issue was that he looked worrisome before the concussion, but after this game, he looked very good, and it was great to see. Falcons Jets. Nick Folk has ice in his veins. Kirk Cousins, Tyrod Taylor, not the original starters for their teams, were going up against each other. The old man matchup we love to see this week between the Jets and the Falcons. The Falcons played well. The Jets played well. Both teams played well. Granted, there were some turnovers you don't want to see from the Falcons. The Jets continue to win games through their defense and through their special teams. They had a massive punt return that got down to, I think it was the 5-yard line, and then they ended up being able to convert, I believe, and get that touchdown. So there's moments like this where you're able to capitalize on these moments of special teams and defense. And there were fumbles, there were issues, and the Jets were able to stay in the game because of their defense and special teams. Now, Nick Folk did miss a kick. It was his first miss of the season. Nick Folk had been near perfect. I believe he doinked it. Then they get tied up, comes down to it, they get a drive, the Jets drive down, and Nick Folk absolutely buries it into the bottom corner. I will say, was slightly scared he was going to miss it, but he ends up getting it. And Nick Folk has been playing exceptionally well as a kicker. It's great to see. I believe he's 23 for 22 so far throughout this season. He has been playing exceptionally well as a kicker. So, Jets, you're only hurting yourselves by wins. Falcons, this is kind of par for the course when your starting quarterback and your star wide receiver are hurt. So, 49ers versus the Browns. Shedeur had one touchdown to Harold Fannin, and that was it. And then they did a 2-point conversion. The 49ers truly were very successful against this Browns team, this defense that's touted for being a very good defense. I continue to say, Brock Purdy is an exceptional quarterback, and you can tell the difference in the offense between when he is playing and when he's not. Mac Jones did a good job at operating, but Purdy does a great job operating the offense, and I think that's what we saw. Kyle Juszczyk did get hurt, so there's some worries there. But outside of that, the 49ers played well. They were able to win in Cleveland. Shedeur didn't look the greatest. There were a couple of plays that you're like, that's what you're going to get with a rookie quarterback. But otherwise, he played all right. I don't think that Shedeur is the answer, but maybe if they get a better line situation, they have had 3 different right tackle starters and 4 different left tackle starters, so that offensive line is hurt. So if he had more time, maybe. But regardless, great win for the 49ers. And when it comes to the upset of the week, the Panthers at home take down the Super Bowl favorite Rams. This game was insane. I think it was some statistic essentially of like Matt Stafford had thrown 21 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. And then he threw one and he could not play the rest of the game. He looked terrible after that interception. That interception wasn't even his fault. It hit off of his wide receiver, went through his hands, popped up, and was caught. And the Rams, this is a game you should win. This is a Panthers team that is going to probably have the chance at winning the NFC South based solely off the fact that they're a competent team. They're winning games against tough opponents. They just took down the Rams. I think that if you're a Panthers fan, be ecstatic because there is a high likelihood that you guys could have a chance at not only making the playoffs, but winning the NFC South for the first time, I believe, since 2015. Somebody fact check me, but I'm pretty sure it's 2015 was the last time that the Panthers won the NFC South. Next, the Jaguars handled business against the Titans. This was kind of a game that was expected. The Titans have been the worst team in the NFL by far. They have 1 win, and it's against the Arizona Cardinals, who had one of the greatest chokes of all time. Second greatest choke of all time. I forgot, 28-3. So, regardless, the Titans right now are not a good football team. They need that first overall pick desperately. Cam Ward is a good quarterback. I think he's not the problem. The problem is they don't have their head coach. They need a new head coach. They need that first round pick to help in some way. They just can't seem to find a solution. This is going to be a multi-year rebuild, and I feel bad for Cam Ward because he is going to have to sit through the rebuild. Jaguars, good win. They keep themselves in the race for the AFC South, especially with the loss that the Colts took, but I don't see them still winning the AFC South. This is going to be a really, really interesting AFC South battle down the stretch between the Jags and the Colts. But with that loss to the Texans, the Colts might have put themselves in jeopardy for winning the AFC South. Cardinals versus the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers win this close game against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals continue to choke games away. At this point, I think the Arizona Cardinals know that their best option is to just lose. If you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, losing out is probably your best bet because you have a chance at a top 5, top 4, top 3 pick in the NFL draft. And when you have someone like Fernando Mendoza, because right now, the era of Kyler Murray, I believe, is done. I think right now the biggest need for the Arizona Cardinals is quarterback. I think they're good in many other spots, but when it comes to their quarterback play, they need help. And that is, did they have a chance at Fernando Mendoza, which is could be a very, very possibly a Heisman winner after this season? You're going to want to lose out. Buccaneers survive another week atop the NFC South. If they don't continue to win games, they are going to struggle to hold on to this NFC South with the Panthers breathing down their neck. Now, they do play the Panthers twice in the last 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season. So we'll really see how the Panthers stack up to a competitive team. But Baker's not been playing the same way because he's clearly playing hurt. But the Vikings, I don't know what to say about the Vikings. The Vikings are in just such a bad spot right now that there's not much I can say. Seahawks continue to be a competitor, continue to look very good, and they were very happy that the Rams lost there because that gives them a chance to compete for the NFC West. Beyond that, there wasn't much of note outside of the deplorable play from the Vikings quarterbacks. The Bills. Bills beat the Steelers 26-7. The Steelers defense looked terrible. The Bills ran for a record number of yards in the Pittsburgh. This was a terrible game from the Steelers. It was a great bounce back game from the Bills. The Bills continue to establish the run and have been very effective at it. Raiders Chargers. Chargers looked very strong. The Chargers looked very strong. The Raiders did not. The Raiders continue to be one of the bottom teams in the NFL. Pete Carroll's going to be out. He's going to be a one and done this season. Geno Smith's out. There's going to be a lot of changes in the Raiders organization come this next year. Chargers, if you guys have a shot at the AFC West, I would hope you take it. Broncos are the ones preventing the Chargers from having a chance at the AFC West. They are playing very sketchy football, but they are winning close games. They win in overtime against the Commanders. Commanders go for 2 and lose it. The Commanders could have played for a tie, but they wanted the win, and they didn't get it. They're going to be down to 3-9. The Commanders cannot win games without Jaden Daniels. Patriots. Okay, Giants. Jackson Dart needs to do a better job of protecting himself. He took way too many big hits, and the Patriots played out of their mind. Very good defense. Drake May continues to look like a top MVP candidate. And finally, the Giants just survive, get a high draft pick, and bolster your offensive line because Jackson Dart's going to need it. There we go. And now we're going to be going along to halftime as I get this all set up for halftime. Okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I had a better way of doing this, but this is the best shot I got. So, okay. And for halftime, we're going to have 5 minutes on halftime. That's the wrong way. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about some kicking play. Now, for those of you that don't know, kicking is probably one of the hardest jobs in the NFL outside of quarterback. Obviously, yes, there are some people that believe it's different, but think about it. You're standing in the middle of a 120 by 53.5 yard field. You are looking down the uprights. You're about 50 yards away from these uprights. The entire stadium of 50,000 fans yelling at the top of their lungs, cheering or booing against you making this kick. It all comes down to you. Snap, hold, kick. That's your job. But you miss. You lose your team the game. What does that do to your mental? Kickers have one of the hardest mental jobs. They have to have the mental fortitude of giants. They don't get many opportunities to do what they do best, which is kick the football. They get maybe 3, 4, at most 8. I've seen 8 field goal attempts per game. And if you miss 1 and you get 2, you went 50%. That's really bad. That's not very good. Kicking is one of the jobs that requires the biggest mental fortitude. And we've seen kickers in the past crumble after miss after miss after miss. Give some grace to your kickers. But that leads me to the question. This season, I feel like I've seen way more kickers miss than I have in the past. And is that a true statement? Well, I crunched the numbers because, of course I did. I went to the statistics over in ESPN, put them into an Excel document, and was able to kind of see how seasons stacked up. 2021 through 2023, the average was about 85 to 86% for field goal percentage. When it comes to PATs, it was, I believe, about 95 ballpark. In 2023, we saw the lowest average. Sorry, not 2023. No, 2024. In 2024, we saw the lowest average we had seen in 4 years, with 83% of field goals made. With over 1,000 attempts, 83.4% of them were made. And for PATs, we saw 95.4% made. There were misses, obviously, that happened. And also, by the way, these statistics are based off of a minimum threshold of 10 field goals taken per 10 field goal attempts. But that gets down to the fact that 83%. Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, Michael, how many field goals have been missed this season? Well, I did not look at that because I realize now, but I can tell you the percentage. And right now, kickers are on pace to have a better season than they did last year, is what I will say. They had a better chance of having a better season than they did last year. Right now, they're at 84.5%. And you want to know why, and why I believe that why we're seeing this slight lower field goal percentage, is because of guys like Brandon Aubrey and Cam Little and Justin Tucker. I'm not going to talk about Justin Tucker off the field, but when it comes to them being able to bomb the football, kick 65, 66, 70-yard field goals, NFL teams now have an expectation that all kickers should be able to make 65, 66, and 70-yard field goals. Mind you, 60, I believe it was 62 yards that was the previous NFL record not just 5 years ago. As players kept breaking this record, it has forced teams to want to take more field goal attempts from further out. And as a result, I think that's why we're seeing this slight decline in kicker play, is that more kickers are taking deeper field goals. And some kickers, that's just not their bag. Their bag is inside the 40 and in. Lights out electric. Oh, we're in the 40 to 50? I can't kick that. Well, too bad. Brandon Aubrey can. And then you send out someone who doesn't have the capacity to do it. And I think that coaches are doing that, and that's why we're seeing this slight decline in field goal percentage, is because they're taking more kicks. And you'd think, oh, well, there was a rule that they just changed that was going to make it to where kicker balls were worked in and able to be used. But because their kickers are taking these farther kicks, it's hurting the kickers that were known for accuracy in the short game. And that's my take on why kicker percentages have gone down. Now we're going to be getting into the second half of action. As I get down here, we're going to be getting into the second half of today's... Oh, why are you that way? We're going to get that handled. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the technical difficulties. There we go. And we are going to be getting the clock back in order. And we are back in action. Now we're going to be talking about Week 14. Now Week 14 has some pretty key matchups when it comes to divisional play and some big games when it comes to just the NFC or AFC as a whole. Now, Cowboys playing in Detroit on Thursday Night Football. The Lions, rather than getting the long week that a lot of these other teams are getting, are going right away. 1 week is all their break is. Now, we're going to be seeing the Cowboys are going to come into this game without having had a very, very strong offensive game against a somewhat tough defense in the Chiefs. The Lions need a bounce-back game. They need a game where their offense plays well and their defense is able to hold the team. I have no doubt that the Lions offense will be able to have a big game. The Cowboys defense continues to show that they will bend. The question is, can their offense score enough to manage that bend? And what I will say is I think that this game favors the Lions. The Lions are at home in a dome. They're going to be in a better situation, and the Cowboys are coming in with obviously the win. They have a win. They don't have that chip on their shoulder. I think the Lions are coming off, and they're like, we just lost to our divisional component. I'm angry. Hit you. That's my thought process behind where the Lions are at, is the Lions want to come in and take Dak Prescott down. The pass rush of Aiden Hutchinson, I think, will play a key factor in who wins this game. Pass rush will matter. Kenny Green and Quinnen Williams, can they get to Jared Goff? If they can't, I think the Lions win. If Aiden Hutchinson is able to get to Dak Prescott and put the fear of God in him, I have a sneaking suspicion that the Lions will win this game. If I have to take a position, I'm going to say the Lions are going to win this game. Titans versus Browns, the rookie quarterback matchup everybody wanted to see. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. The Browns are going to win this game. I have no doubt that the Browns are going to win this game. The Browns have a top defense against a Titans team that cannot win games. They have won one game. The only reason they are not a winless team is because the Cardinals suck. That is the plain and simple fact. I think the Browns win this game. They have a top defense. Myles Garrett is going to get another 5-sack game against Cam Ward. He's going to be having a field day in the backfield against the Titans. And Shedeur, he's going to have a good job. It's going to be a situation where they are dealing with a weaker secondary. If Shedeur wants to show off that he is a good passer, this is the game to do it. This is the game that Shedeur puts himself on the map and says, hey, I'm like that. If he cannot perform against this Titans team, I would have to say that Shedeur's not the future for the Cleveland Browns. That's what I believe, and that's where I stand when it comes to this specific situation. Seahawks versus the Falcons. Seahawks are going to win this game. They're going into Atlanta, and I don't believe that Michael Penix is going to be back. Kirk Cousins is going to have a rough day against the Seattle Seahawks team. The Seattle Seahawks team is playing like a top team in the NFC. They currently are. I believe they stand at the 5th seed right now because they're the best of the rest. They are competing for the NFC West title against the Rams, who just lost a game, and if they're hoping for a slide, this would be the chance. They hope to execute and have a chance at taking this NFC West title and being able to set themselves up in the playoffs this upcoming season. Sam Darnold has played well. This defense continues to hold good teams to low scores, and this Falcons team is not a good team. They are a mediocre team at best, and as a result, the Seahawks are going to win this game pretty handedly. Colts versus the Jaguars. This game is going to be one of the pivotal games when it comes to the AFC South race, when it comes to the divisions and who wins. If the Colts continue the slide and the Jags win this game in Duval, mind you, they're at home, they're in Duval, there is a chance that the Jags could usurp the Colts for the AFC South. They would need more of a slide from the Colts. They're not going to take it in this one game. But if they win this game, it sets themselves up when it comes to tiebreakers if we see a Colts slide. I don't think we see a Colts slide. I still think the Colts are going to win this game. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a bounce-back game. He's going to have another game like he did in Berlin where he just goes off and pops off for 100, maybe 150 or even 200 yards. I think it's going to be one of those games where he's the engine to the Colts' success. Commanders-Vikings. Oh, this is going to be a rough game to watch. If there's any game you guys can skip in the early window, it'd be that game. I don't think that game is going to be a very good game. I believe it's Brismer? Mac Brismer, who the quarterback for the Vikings, played one of the worst games of quarterback play I've ever seen in my life. He was abysmal. This Vikings offense cannot do anything when they don't have a quarterback. And right now it's hard to there's that moment of, oh, we messed up because Sam Darnold's over there playing like one of the best players currently in the MVP race. He's not obviously very high in it, but there's a chance he could get there. And I would have to say that right now the Vikings are going to be put into quarterback purgatory. They're not going to know what to do. And if they don't figure out their quarterback situation next season, I think Justin Jefferson's going to leave. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Justin Jefferson's going to request a trade, and he's going to try to get out of Minnesota. But what I will say is that I would not be surprised if the Vikings try to make a trade with a bird team, specifically the Arizona Cardinals. I could see the Vikings in this situation. J.J. McCarthy's not playing well. Max Brosmer, Carson Wentz, none of their quarterbacks have been playing well. They need a guy that's a veteran that can come in, step in, and be a spark plug and be able to provide some good quarterback play. And if anyone could fix Kyler Murray, it's Kevin O'Connell. And if any team is like, hey, we need some draft capital, we need some talent, give us an injection of talent, it's the Arizona Cardinals. I very well could see a offseason trade where we see Kyler Murray get traded to the Minnesota Vikings for some draft capital. I don't see it being a situation where they give up any major players, but that is a take I have. I do have the Commanders winning this game. I think they played a great game against the Denver Broncos. Marcus Mariota was playing very well, if not for one great pass block by Benito, the game could have fallen a completely different way. So what I will say is when it comes to I take the Washington Commanders in this because the Vikings just cannot figure it out, and Marcus Mariota is proving to be a little bit better. I think this team, obviously the Commanders, play poorly when they don't have Jaden Daniels, but you're still seeing good stuff from Deebo Samuel, from Terry McLaurin, and Zach Ertz. Marcus Mariota is running the offense, not to the level that Jaden Daniels does, but enough to where I think they will win this game against the Minnesota Vikings. The Bengals versus the Bills. This game I'm so excited for because we have Joe Burrow back. They're going to Buffalo. They're going to be playing Josh Allen. We're going to see the Allen-Burrow matchup that we all want to see because Joe Burrow's back, and I think that this game is going to be a very fun game to watch. If there's any game I would watch in the afternoon window, it's going to be this game. I think the Cincinnati Bengals go in and handle business. I think this is going to be a shootout of a game. I think it's going to be 35-42. I very well see that being the case, and I think it's going to fall in favor of the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to be slugging it. I think Jamar Chase is going to have his best game of the season statistically, and I think Joe Burrow is going to continue to get better as the season goes on because he's coming back from injury. He has a chance to continue to improve this team's situation, and I very much so think that it's going to fall in this way. And the Bills, I think they're going to play a good game, but I think that I think Burrow's just going to have enough of an effect to win this game against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Saints Buccaneers. Buccaneers win. I think I don't see any world in which the Saints win this. It would take either a key injury or it would take an absolute collapse from the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers, obviously, they did not handle business the way you would have liked with the Arizona Cardinals, but I will say that I think the Saints going into Tampa Bay are not going to be able to handle it the way that they should or the way that you would want them to, being that this could have very major implications in the NFC South. I think the Saints will obviously try, and they will do their best to win this game, but I think it's going to come down to the Buccaneers playing well, and I think the Buccaneers are going to play well. I think Baker Mayfield and Emeka Mbuka are going to have a very good game because I don't think that the Saints have a corner that is able to contain Emeka Mbuka. Steelers-Ravens. The Pittsburgh Steelers going into Baltimore after one of their worst games defensively I have seen in the Mike Tomlin era. It was such a bad game that we're seeing ex-players, Ben Roethlisberger, saying, hey, you know what would be better for Mike Tomlin? Going to Penn State and being a Penn State head coach. This is not what you want to see for your head coach and where your fan base stands on your head coach. And by that metric, I think the Steelers are probably going to lose this game. But, fourth quarter starts. Put the fours up. Let's keep it going. This is a weird game because I think the Steelers lose this game. They've been playing poorly, and I think the Ravens are going to have a bounce-back game, but they're going to establish the run. I think Lamar is going to have a field day against the run because the Steelers cannot do anything. The Steelers don't have any weapons at wide receiver because Metcalf's getting double covered. They don't have a good wide receiver, too, which is hurting them. They really could have used George Pickens this season, but that was their decision to trade him away, and now he's having living his best life down in Dallas. So I very well think that this is going to fall in favor of the Ravens, but it's probably going to fall in favor of the Ravens, and I think that's going to be the thing that decides the AFC North, is that if the Ravens win this game, they're probably going to win the AFC North because the Steelers continue to slide. And the thing is that Mike Tomlin is still on pace for his 9-8 season, never having a losing season in his career in Pittsburgh. But I will say that Pittsburgh Steelers fans were booing, and we could see Mike Tomlin, his tenure being up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Dolphins-Jets. I think the Dolphins win this game. The Jets coming off of a good win, a tough win against the Atlanta Falcons. Very, very strong win. Great special teams and defensive game for the Jets. I think the Dolphins win this. The Dolphins are continuing to put in good offensive games. I forgot to mention, Devon Achane had 143 rushing yards, and I believe 2 touchdowns. He had a fantastic game on Sunday, and he's going to continue to play well because he is the shining spot of that offense, and it's being run well, somewhat, by Tua Tagovailoa, and Mike McDaniels is really just screwing the franchise of the Miami Dolphins because he continues to do things like this, where he puts together really, really strong stints. He's very much of an up and down head coach. You see stints where his team goes 0-6, and then you see stints where his team goes 6-0. And so right now we're on an upkick. I think Mike McDaniels is going to put in a couple more wins, and when he does inevitably get fired, I think right now he's trying to make himself look hireable in the sense of an offensive coordinator position, similar to how Cliff Kingsbury became the offensive coordinator over with the Washington Commanders. And the Jets continue sucking. Try to get a good draft pick. You guys don't have any. You have so many needs. Just continue to make sure that you lose draft pick, lower your drafts, so you can have a better draft pick. Broncos win this. There's no question or debate in my mind on who wins this game. It's the Broncos. The Broncos have won 9 games straight. They're 10-2, for goodness sake. They're one of the top teams in the NFL. They are the top team in the NFL record-wise. Do I think that is a true record? Probably not. Do I think they might be a first-round exit? Probably. However, I do think that they have a very high likelihood of winning the AFC West, and this is where we'll see it. This is the game where we will see whether this team can hold it together. Because it has to be better than the last time they played the Raiders. It was so bad the last time they played the Raiders. They need a game where they just have a strong offensive drive and are able to put themselves in a winning position. Then we have the Rams versus the Cardinals. Rams win this. No world where I believe the Cardinals win this game. The Cardinals might make it close like they've done with every other game, but the Cardinals are now 0, I believe it's 0-9? No, 0-8 in one-score games. The Cardinals are 0-8 in one-score games, and this is going to be another statistic where they fall in the 0-9 statistic for one-score games. I think they'll keep it close, but this is going to fall in favor of the Rams, and the Rams are going to continue to hold possession of that number 1 spot in the NFC West. But if you're a Seahawks fan, cheer for the Cardinals right now, because the Cardinals are your best chance at taking over the number 1 spot in the NFC West. Bears-Packers. Now, this one's interesting. The Bears currently are number 1 in the NFC North. They are playing well. Ben Johnson's coaching well. You're seeing a lot of what you want to see when it comes to good play. They're winning close games. They're playing good defense. They're playing good offense. It's literally the definition of a good football team. But Micah Parsons is over there staring across the way, frothing at the mouth, ready to take out your star quarterback. This game will come down to defense. Can Green Bay stifle the Ben Johnson offense? And can the Bears defense hold Jordan Love? Because Jordan Love is a bit of a wishy-washy quarterback. He has some games where he plays out of his mind ballistic, and there's other games where he doesn't. A lot of games that they've been successful in have been through the engine of Josh Jacobs and their run game. This game is one in which I believe that it will come down to defense. Who can hold the team to less points wins the game. I know, it's very obvious. But the reason I say that is both these teams have shown that they have strong defenses. The question is which defense will show up. And also, it's in Lambeau. And let me tell you, I live in Minnesota. It's really freaking cold out right now. It's 9 degrees outside. I don't think I'd want to play a football game in 9 degrees. And Lambeau is about just 4 hours away and is around the same cold. So we have a Bears team coming from Illinois. Obviously, yes, is a cold place, but is going into a Lambeau Field away game, cold temperatures. And that's truly the part that makes me feel like the Bears are going to lose this game and might see the division start to slip out of their hands. Because right now it's in their possession. But I think the Packers are going to win this game. Texans, Chiefs, Sunday Night Football. All signs and all metrics point to I should pick the Texans to win this game. It is an Arrowhead, so Chiefs have home field advantage, but the Chiefs are on a slide. They've been losing to tough teams, tough opponents. One-score games they're losing in. Texans are on a 3-game win streak. They're playing very good football. I think they're on a 3-game win streak. Davis Mills played very well, and CJ Stroud played well last week. Regardless, they are continuing to play well. And what I will say is that this game could continue to be a very pivotal game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs, this is a must-win. The Texans is a must-win. This is going to be one of the most pivotal games of the season when it comes to the future of these franchises. Not the future of these franchises, the future of their season. I think the Chiefs win this game. Call me crazy, call me insane for picking the same team over and over again, but I really struggle not picking Mahomes in clutch time, not picking Mahomes when the season's on the line, because he has shown that he is clutch in moments that matter. And this is going to be a game that matters. This is a moment that matters. And this is a moment where I think the Chiefs win against the Texans at home. Eagles-Chargers. The Chargers win this game. The reason I say that, even though, let me say, Justin Herbert's getting bullied on the offensive line, and I'm very worried about the offensive line against this Eagles defense, because this Eagles defensive line is scary for sure. But you can also tell that they lost a lot of key pieces in free agency. They're not nearly as scary as they were last year. They're very good gap sound internally, but when it comes to the edges, they don't have the same luck that they had when they had Josh Sweat, when they had Hassan Reddick and those guys. But I think the Chargers win this game. The Chargers defense has been playing well against somewhat tough teams. And if Chuck Petrulo is going to continue to be a bad offensive coordinator. By the way, the only reason I know Chuck Petrulo's name is because I live with an Eagles fan. And he continues to remind me that the reason that they are losing games is because of Chuck Petrulo and him being a terrible offensive coordinator. So, it's the whole fan base that doesn't like Chuck Petrulo. It's not just me. I would just like to say, they want him gone. They want a different offensive coordinator because he is not capitalizing on the talent they have, because they have A.J. Brown, they have Devonta Smith, they have Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts, and they're not using it. And Jalen Hurts has not been playing well, in my opinion. I think he's going to put up a poor game again. But this team is not the same team that they've been in the past. And I think the Chargers are going to win. And Jim Harbaugh and this Chargers-led team by Justin Herbert, who is Mr. Perfect, is going to win. And that is my take and my prediction for Week 14 of the NFL season. And that, as the clock falls down, is going to be it for GameClock this week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. It was so great to be back. It's been 2 weeks, but we'll see you next week on GameClock, your new favorite sports show. Good evening and good night.